Gaz. I still remember the sound, not his voice, not the words he said, just the sound of the front door closing behind him. It was strange how one simple click could end 5 years of love. For a long time, Gaz, I stood there without moving. My coffee was still warm. His favorite breakfast was still on the table. His jacket was still hanging beside the door. Everything looked normal, except he was gone. Gaz. If someone had walked into my apartment that morning, they would have thought it was just another peaceful Saturday. But inside me, everything had already fallen apart. Gaz. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never imagined they could become the reason you stopped believing in yourself? That was me. I wasn't just in love with Ethan, Gaz. I had built my entire future around him. Every dream I had, every plan, every sacrifice, included his name. I believed love was supposed to survive anything. I was wrong, because sometimes, Gaz, the person you trust the most is the one quietly preparing to leave, and they smile while doing it. 3 months earlier, life felt almost perfect. Gaz. I worked as a customer service manager in a small furniture company. The pay wasn't amazing, the hours were long, but every evening I rushed home because someone was waiting for me. Ethan, Gaz. He always greeted me with a smile. Sometimes he cooked dinner. Sometimes we watched movies. Sometimes we argued over which pizza to order. Nothing extraordinary, Gaz. Just the little moments that make a relationship feel real. People often asked us when we were getting married. Even my mother kept saying, "You've already found your forever." I believed her, Gaz. I had no reason not to. Ethan looked like the kind of man every woman dreamed about. Calm, funny, but responsible at least. That's what everyone saw, Gaz. No one noticed how slowly he had started changing. Not even me. The first sign was so small that I ignored it. He stopped telling me about his day. Whenever I asked how work went, Gaz, his answer became shorter. Fine, busy, nothing special. That was it. No stories, no jokes, no excitement. I told myself he was simply tired. Everyone gets stressed, right? Then came the late nights, Gaz. Business meetings, unexpected overtime, weekend projects. He always had a reason, and because I loved him, I believed every single one. Love has a strange way of making excuses for people. Sometimes, Gaz, it blinds you before it breaks you. One Friday evening I decided to surprise him. I left work early, bought his favorite cheesecake, even picked up a small gift, Gaz. A watch he'd been looking at for months. Nothing expensive. Just something to remind him that someone appreciated everything he did. I couldn't wait to see his face. I imagined him smiling, Gaz, maybe hugging me, maybe telling me how lucky he was. Instead, when I reached our apartment, the lights were off, his car wasn't there. I checked my phone, no message, no missed call. I waited, Gaz. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, around 11 at night, he walked inside. He looked surprised to see me awake. "Oh, you're still up? Still up?" I'd been sitting alone for hours, Gaz, holding a gift that suddenly felt embarrassing. "You said you'd be home for dinner." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Work got crazy." I smiled anyway. "It's okay." I handed him the small box. "Gaz, I got you something." For a second, his face softened, but it disappeared almost immediately. "You shouldn't have spent money." Not "thank you." Not "I love it." Just, "you shouldn't have, Gaz." Something inside me felt different. I couldn't explain it. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was the feeling that someone was slowly moving away while pretending to stand beside me, Gaz. Weeks turned into months. The distance between us kept growing. We still lived together, but it no longer felt like home. We were roommates sharing bills, not two people building a future, Gaz. Sometimes I'd wake up during the night. He'd be sitting in the living room, pon in his hand, smiling the moment he noticed me. The smile disappeared. He locked his screen. It's just work, Jazz. Always work, everything had become work. One evening my best friend Lily invited me out for coffee. The moment she saw me, she frowned. "You don't look happy." I forced a laugh. "I'm just tired." She leaned closer. "No, you're pretending. Friends notice the pain we hide from ourselves." I stayed quiet. Then she asked the question I didn't want to hear. "Jazz, are you sure Ethan is being honest with you?" I almost got angry. "Of course he is." She nodded slowly. "I hope you're right." Those words stayed in my mind for days, not because I believed her, Jazz, but because, for the first time, I wasn't completely sure. The following Tuesday changed everything. I wasn't supposed to leave work early, but the office internet crashed. Everyone was sent home, Jazz. I smiled finally, an unexpected afternoon together. I bought fresh flowers on the way home. He always liked white lilies. As I walked toward our apartment, I noticed an unfamiliar car parked outside, Jazz. Black, expensive. I assumed it belonged to a neighbor. Nothing unusual. I unlocked the front door quietly. The apartment was silent. "Ethan?" No answer. I walked farther inside. Then I heard laughter, Jazz. A woman's laughter, coming from our balcony. For a moment, my heart stopped. Maybe it was a coworker, maybe a client, maybe. Our minds create thousands of excuses before accepting the truth. Jazz. I stepped closer. Each step felt heavier than the last. I reached the balcony door. My hand trembled as I pulled the curtain aside, and there he was, standing only a few feet away, smiling, Jazz, looking happier than I'd seen him in months. Across from him stood a woman, beautiful, confident, lowing at something he had just said. Then, she reached for his hand, and he didn't pull away, Jazz. Instead, he held hers. My world went silent, not because of what I saw, but because of what I finally understood: the distance, the late nights, the hidden phone, the missing smiles. Jazz. It had never been work. It had been her. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I just stood there, watching 5 years disappear in a single moment. And then, Ethan slowly turned around. Jazz. Our eyes met. The smile vanished from his face. He knew there were no more lies left to tell. For a few seconds, no one moved. The woman looked at me. I looked at her, Jazz, and Ethan, the man I had loved for 5 years, simply stared back at me. I kept waiting for him to say something, anything. "I'm sorry, it isn't what it looks like. I made a mistake, Jazz." But those words never came. Instead, he slowly let go of her hand, took a deep breath, and said the one sentence that hurt more than I ever thought possible. "We need to talk." I almost laughed. "Talk, Jazz?" After everything I had just seen. I placed the flowers on the dining table. The white lilies, the ones he always loved, suddenly looked out of place. The room felt cold. The woman looked uncomfortable. She picked up her purse. "I should go." Ethan nodded. "I'll call you later." Call her later, not even embarrassed, not even trying to hide it anymore. She walked past me without saying a word. Jazz. As the front door closed behind her, the apartment became painfully quiet. I looked at Ethan. "So, how long?" He didn't answer immediately. He walked toward the kitchen. He poured himself a glass of water and avoided looking at me. That silence gave me my answer. "It wasn't just today, was it?" He shook his head. "No." My voice became smaller. "How long, Jazz?" He finally looked at me. "About 8 months. 8 months. 8 months of lies. 8 months of fake business trips. 8 months of pretending everything was normal." I felt my knees weaken. Jazz. 8 months, while I had been planning our future, saving money for our wedding, looking at houses online, talking about children. He had already been living another life. I whispered, "Who is she?" Jazz. "Her name is Olivia." The way he said her name, calmly, almost gently, it felt like another betrayal. "You love her?" He stayed silent. Silence answered everything. I wanted to scream, Jazz. I wanted to throw every picture off the wall, I wanted to ask 1,000 questions instead. I just cried, not loudly, not dramatically, just quiet tears that refused to stop. Gaz. Because sometimes pain is too deep for shouting. Finally, I asked, "Why?" He rubbed his forehead. "I didn't plan this. It just happened." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "It just happened, Gaz. You lied to me every single day. I trusted you. I defended you. I believed every excuse." His voice stayed calm. "I didn't want to hurt you." I looked around our apartment. Gaz. The couch we picked together, the vacation photos, the birthday cards, the little plants by the window, everything suddenly felt fake. "You already did." He sat down. "I think we've both changed." "No, you changed. I stayed. I fought for us. You walked away while pretending to stay." For the first time, he looked uncomfortable. "I've been unhappy. I couldn't stop myself." "Since when, Gaz?" He looked down. "I don't know." That answer made me realize something. He wasn't trying to save us. He wasn't even trying to explain. Gaz. He had already made his decision long before I walked through that balcony door. I was simply the last person to know. That night neither of us slept. I stayed in the bedroom. He slept on the couch. Gaz. Or at least I assumed he did. Every hour I looked at the ceiling wondering where everything had gone wrong. Was I not enough? Was I too boring, too busy, too trusting? The questions kept coming. Gaz. None of them had answers. The next morning I woke up early. His side of the closet was half empty. Half his clothes were gone, his laptop, his favorite shoes, even his guitar. Gaz. He hadn't just been planning to leave. He had been preparing for weeks. On the kitchen counter sat a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "I'm sorry things ended this way, Gaz. You deserve someone who can love you the way you deserve. I hope one day you'll understand." Understand? Understand what? That 5 years could be replaced in 8 months? Gaz. That loyalty had an expiration date. I folded the note and placed it back on the counter. For the first time, I didn't cry. I simply felt empty. The following days were the hardest of my life. Gaz. The apartment became painfully quiet. No footsteps, no music, no late-night conversations. Only silence. I stopped cooking, stopped watching television, stopped answering phone calls. I went to work, came home, sat on the couch, and stared at nothing. Days blended together. People noticed. My co-workers whispered. My manager asked if everything was okay. I smiled every time. "I'm fine, Gaz." It became the biggest lie I had ever told. A week later, Lily showed up at my apartment without calling. She walked inside carrying 2 bags of groceries. One look at me, Gaz, and she understood everything. Oh, she hugged me before saying a single word. For several minutes, I cried into her shoulder, not because I wanted sympathy, because I was exhausted. Gaz. Pretending to be strong takes energy. I had none left. She cleaned my apartment while I sat quietly. Then she made coffee. Finally, she sat across from me. "Tell me everything." So I did, every lie. Gaz. Every excuse, every late night, every hidden smile. When I finished, she stayed silent for a long moment. Then she asked, "What are you going to do now?" I shrugged. "I don't know." She leaned closer. Gaz. "Then let me tell you, you're going to survive. Not because he deserves it, but because you deserve a better ending." Those words stayed with me. Gaz. Maybe because they were the first hopeful words I'd heard in days. That weekend I made a decision. I packed every photograph of Ethan into one box, every birthday card, every movie ticket. Gaz. Every little memory. I didn't throw them away. Not yet. I simply placed them in the storage room, because healing doesn't happen in one day. Sometimes it begins with making space to breathe. Gaz. A month passed, life slowly became quieter, not happier, just quieter. Then one afternoon, as I was leaving work, I saw them, across the street, Ethan and Olivia holding hands, laughing. Gaz. He looked happier than ever. For one painful second, I wanted to run. Instead, I stood perfectly still. Neither of them noticed me. They got into the same black car I had seen outside our apartment. As they drove away, I whispered something to myself. No more. No more crying over someone who had already chosen another life. No more asking why. No more waiting for closure that would never come. I didn't know it yet, but that quiet promise would become the turning point of my entire life, because losing Ethan wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of the woman I was about to become, and neither he nor Olivia had any idea what was coming next. People think heartbreak ends when the person leaves. It doesn't. The real battle begins the morning after, when you wake up, reach for your phone, and remember there's no message waiting, no good morning, no have a great day. Just silence, for weeks. That silence followed me everywhere. It sat beside me during breakfast. It rode with me to work. It waited for me when I came home. Even when the apartment was full of light, it still felt empty. But one Saturday morning, something inside me finally changed. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles under my eyes, messy hair, a tired face that barely looked familiar. I stared at my reflection for a long time. Then I asked one simple question. When did I stop recognizing myself? The answer hurt. I hadn't lost myself the day Ethan left. I had been losing myself long before that. Little by little, without even noticing, I had made him the center of my world. His dreams became my dreams. His happiness became my responsibility. His future became my future, somewhere along the way. I forgot to build one for myself. That realization didn't heal me, but it gave me something I hadn't felt in months. Direct. That afternoon, I walked into a small notebook store. I bought the cheapest journal I could find, nothing fancy, just a plain blue notebook. When I got home, I opened the first page. For almost 10 minutes, I couldn't think of anything to write. Then I wrote one sentence. Today I choose me. It looked strange, almost impossible, but writing those 4 words felt like taking my first real breath in months. I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't waste another day wondering why Ethan left. Instead, I would spend every day becoming someone I could be proud of. The next Monday, I arrived at work earlier than everyone else. For the first time in months, I wasn't counting the hours until I could go home. I actually wanted to stay busy. My manager, Mr. Collins, noticed immediately. You look different. I smiled politely. Different good or different bad? He laughed. Different determined. That word stayed with me all day. Determined maybe I was. Instead of doing only what was expected, I started helping other departments. I learned new software. I volunteered for projects nobody wanted. Not because I expected a reward. Because staying busy kept my mind from drifting back to Ethan. Every completed task reminded me of something important. I was capable, I always had been. I'd just forgotten. Outside work, I made another change. Every evening after dinner I went for a walk. At first it was only 15 minutes, then 30. Soon it became an hour. I noticed things I'd ignored for years. Children laughing in the park, old couples holding hands, street musicians playing songs with more heart than perfection. Life had continued moving, even while I believed mine had stopped. Maybe mine could move again too. Lily refused to let me hide forever. Every Friday she dragged me somewhere different. Coffee shops, bookstores, local art shows, farmers markets. One evening, while we were eating ice cream by the river, she looked at me and smiled. You know what I noticed? What? You laughed today. I frowned. Did I? She nodded. 3 times. I hadn't even realized it. It wasn't a fake laugh, or a polite laugh. It was real, small, but real, for the first time. The pain hadn't been the loudest voice in my head. 2 months after the breakup, something unexpected happened. Mr. Collins called me into his office. My heart immediately started racing. Had I done something wrong? He closed the door, then placed a file on his desk. I've been watching your work. I nodded nervously. You've done more in the last 8 weeks than most people do in a year. I didn't know what to say, he continued. Our regional manager is retiring, I blinked. And I want to recommend you. I almost laughed. Me, you've earned it. I walked out of his office in complete shock. Just a few months ago, I could barely get out of bed. Now someone believed I could lead an entire team. Maybe, just maybe, I had been stronger than I ever realized. That evening I called my mother. The moment she answered, she knew something had happened. What is it? I might get promoted. She became quiet, then she started crying. Not sad tears, happy ones. I've been waiting to hear hope in your voice again. Hope, I hadn't thought about that word in a long time. 3 weeks later, the promotion became official. I wasn't just earning more money. I was earning something far more valuable. Confidence, I bought myself a small celebration cake, not because someone else gave it to me, because I wanted to celebrate my own victory. As I lit a single candle, I smiled. Months ago, I thought losing one person meant losing my future. Now I realized the future had been waiting for me all along. Success has a strange way of changing people. Not just you, the people around you too. Former coworkers who barely spoke to me suddenly wanted lunch. People who had ignored my ideas started asking for advice. Even strangers treated me differently. At first, it felt uncomfortable. Then I understood. Confidence changes the way the world sees you. One evening, as I was leaving the office, my phone buzzed, an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Hello? A familiar voice came through the speaker. Hi. Every muscle in my body froze. Ethan, for a second. It felt like the last 3 months had disappeared. He sounded exactly the same, calm, comfortable, as if nothing had happened. I know it's been a while. I stayed silent. I just wanted to see how you've been. 3 months ago, I would have cried hearing his voice. Now, I simply looked out the office window. I'm doing well. He hesitated. I heard about your promotion. Of course he had. News travels fast. I'm happy for you. I thanked him politely. Then another long silence followed. Finally, he asked, maybe we could get coffee sometime. I closed my eyes. Months earlier, I would have accepted before he finished the sentence. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I don't think that's a good idea. He sounded surprised. You don't even want to talk? We're talking now, I mean, in person. I smiled sadly. Some conversations belong in the past. Before he could answer, I wished him well and ended the call. As I slipped my phone back into my bag, I realized something incredible. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. For the first time, Ethan no longer had the power to control my emotions. But what I didn't know was this. That phone call wasn't about friendship. It wasn't about closure. And it definitely wasn't about guilt. It was the beginning of something Ethan had never expected. Because the life he had chosen was already starting to fall apart. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about that phone call. Not because I missed Ethan. That feeling was gone. What stayed with me was one question. Why now? For 3 months, he had disappeared without looking back. No messages, no birthday wishes, no apology, nothing. Then suddenly, he wanted coffee. It didn't make sense. I tried to ignore it. I buried myself in work, attended meetings, and kept moving forward. But life has a strange habit of answering questions when you least expect it. The answer came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I was leaving the office when I heard someone call my name. Emma, I turned around. It was Jason, Ethan's former co-worker. We had met a few times during company dinners years ago. He smiled awkwardly. Jazz, it's been a long time. It has. After a few minutes of small talk, he looked uncertain. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you and Ethan talking again? The question caught me off guard. Not really. He looked relieved. Good. I frowned. What do you mean? Jason rubbed the back of his neck. I probably shouldn't say anything. Jazz. That sentence guaranteed he was about to say something important. What happened? He hesitated, then he sighed. You deserve to know. We walked into a nearby coffee shop. As soon as we sat down, Jazz. Jason leaned forward. Do you remember Olivia? I nodded slowly. I wish I didn't. He looked down at his coffee. They're having problems. I stayed quiet, not because I cared. Jazz. Because I wanted to understand why Ethan had suddenly remembered I existed. Jason continued. At first everything looked perfect. They traveled, bought expensive things. Jazz. Posted smiling pictures online. The perfect couple. I wasn't surprised. Social media usually shows the highlights, not the truth. But after a while, they started arguing about money. Jazz. About work, about trust. I raised an eyebrow. Trust? Jason gave a small ironic smile. The relationship that started with secrets eventually became full of them. Jazz. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The same man who broke my trust was now struggling because trust had disappeared from his own life. Jason continued quietly. Olivia left her job. Jazz. Ethan was paying for almost everything. Then his company started cutting positions. My heart skipped. Ethan lost his job? Jason nodded. 3 weeks ago. I looked out the cafe window. Jazz. Cars moved through the rain. People hurried home. Life kept moving, just like it had when my own world collapsed. So that's why he called. Jason looked surprised. You figured it out, Jazz. He didn't miss me. He missed stability. Jason didn't answer. He didn't need to. That night, I sat alone on my balcony, the same balcony where I had watched my heart break. Jazz. The memory no longer made me cry. It reminded me how far I had come. Back then, I thought I had lost everything. Now I understood something different. Sometimes, Jazz. Life removes people who would only hold you back, not to punish you, to prepare you. The next morning, Lily stopped by my office with 2 cups of coffee. The moment she saw my face, she smiled. Jazz. What happened? I told her everything Jason had shared. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. So, he only came back because his life isn't working. It seems that way. She shook her head. Jazz. I hope you know something. What? If his life had stayed perfect, he never would have called. That truth landed harder than I expected. She was right. I hadn't been his first choice. Jazz. I had become his backup plan, and I refused to live as anyone's second option ever again. Over the following weeks, work became even busier. The promotion brought new responsibilities, long meetings, Jazz. New employees, difficult decisions. It was exhausting. But it was the kind of exhaustion that came from building something meaningful. Every evening, I went home knowing I had accomplished something, Jazz. Not because someone praised me, because I was proud of myself. That feeling was completely new. One Friday afternoon, our company hosted a regional business conference, Jazz. Managers from several branches attended. I spent days preparing my presentation. Standing in front of a room full of experienced professionals was intimidating. But the moment I began speaking, Jazz, something clicked. The nervousness disappeared. The audience listened carefully. People took notes. When I finished, the room filled with applause. Afterward, Jazz. Several executives came over to congratulate me. One of them handed me his business card. If you're ever looking for a bigger opportunity, give me a call. I smiled politely. Just months ago, Jazz. I couldn't even imagine speaking confidently in front of strangers. Now people were offering me opportunities I had never dreamed of. As the event ended, I walked toward the parking lot. Halfway there, I froze, leaning against a silver car, was Ethan. He looked different. His expensive suits were gone. His shoulders seemed heavier. His confident smile had disappeared. When he saw me, he stood up. "Hi." I took a slow breath. "Hi, I hope I'm not bothering you." "You are." He looked embarrassed. "I just wanted 5 minutes." "I don't." I started walking again. He followed a few steps behind. "Please, I made mistakes." I stopped, turned around, looked him straight in the eyes. "Mistakes? You lied for 8 months. You planned another life while living with me." "That wasn't one mistake, That was hundreds of choices." For the first time, he couldn't look at me. "I know, I regret everything." His voice sounded broken. "I was stupid. I thought I knew what I wanted, and now," swallowed. "Now, I know I lost the best thing that ever happened to me." Months ago, those words would have healed me. Today, they meant nothing because they arrived too late. "You didn't lose me today, Ethan. You lost me the day you stopped choosing us." Silence filled the parking lot. Rain began falling lightly. Neither of us moved. Finally, he whispered, "Is there any chance we could start over?" I smiled, not with anger, not with revenge, with peace. The woman who would have said yes doesn't exist anymore. His eyes filled with regret. Mine didn't, because I had already cried all the tears meant for him. I walked to my car. Before getting inside, I looked back one last time. Ethan was still standing there, alone, watching me leave. For the first time, he knew exactly how it felt. But my story wasn't ending there, because just as one chapter had finally closed, a completely unexpected person was about to walk into my life. Someone who would remind me that real love never asks you to beg, and sometimes the best ending begins after the worst goodbye.